Hi there, I'm Karen Dunn of KMD Productions. From the equipment manufacturers to the engineers to the business people behind the scenes. Over the years, every member of the pro audio corner of the music industry have become family to me, and it's my job to bring the whole eclectic crew together. Each episode, I'll introduce you to one of these characters and open a window into my world of creating community in pro audio. Thanks for tuning in to One and Dunn. Hi, joining us today is O.P. Miller. He's the Artist Relations Manager at Cerrado, as well as a DJ, producer, and engineer. O.P., thanks for being here.
Thank you. Glad to be here with you.
You know, I was just telling you, you're the first person that I've done a One and Done podcast with that I haven't met other than through a Zoom call. So I'm totally excited to be doing this and find out more about you.
Thank you. And thank you for inviting me to be here. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So I'm fascinated by the whole DJ thing. I don't know anything about DJ. So how did you get into it? Did you see videos of people be DJs? How were you exposed to it? And how did you even realize that was a career path you could take?
Yeah, that's a good question. It is a thing, the DJ thing, for sure. I grew up, born in New York City in Brooklyn. And, exposed to a lot of music, hip hop in particular. But during a time when I was kind of back and forth between New Jersey and New York, I used to listen to a lot of radio. And so there were the two stations, Kiss FM and WBLS, and there were some pretty key DJs that were on air at the time. People like Marley Marl and Red Alert and a bunch of other people. And I would always listen to the way that they would kind of cut records up back and forth as they were playing, and trying to figure out like how they were putting these things together and what they were doing to make these things happen and transition songs and all the rest. On top of the fact that I was always curious about the samples that were in a lot of those hip hop songs.
Right.
So when I was younger, I used to go to my father's record collection. I found like a Stevie Wonder record or Earth, Wind and Fire or a Gil Scott-Heron or couple other people.
So the classics.
And the classics, yeah, foundational stuff. And I would, because I didn't have a turntable mixer set up and I was trying to understand what they were doing, I used to take my father's receiver and have it on the radio, be listening to a song, and then on his turntable, he had it must have been some kind of, I don't know, Panasonic something turntable, belt drive with a diamond tip needle on it, which is really bad for what I'm going to say what I was doing. I would take the record and kind of put the needle on and find something that I thought sounded like an interesting sound to scratch. And I would literally, at a moment, turn from FM to phono on the receiver and then kind of do this real quick and then switch it back over again, trying to emulate what I was hearing on the records.
How long did it take for your dad to figure out you were doing that to his needles?
Well, a lot of destroyed records. The needle actually broke. And that was the beginning of him being like, okay, like you're interested in this, but this is not the way to do it. So it wasn't until a couple years later that I ran into now one of my best friends, a guy named DJ Scribe, who's here in New York City. And he was a DJ and he had thousands of records at his house. And he was like, hey, if you want to come over and, come, figure out how to DJ, you can do it. And so I got to his house and he had two turntables, a mixer, gang load of records everywhere, some production equipment as well. And I kind of like fell in love. And I used to go to his house almost every weekend and I would kind of just try to figure out, okay, how do you put the record on? How do you put the needle in the groove? How do you start to kind of like figure out where you're at placement on the record? And then eventually learn how to be able to release the record and play it, and then do the same thing on the other side, and then have two records actually match up, both by BPM and also by like energy and feel. Mm-hmm. And when I finally figured that out for the first time, this like massive light bulb kind of blew up, for me, lit up. And I was like, oh my God, this is the best feeling in the world, and I want to do this for the rest of my life. And then eventually, as time went along, I got to do that in front of people. And as I did that, to not only see people have fun and dance, but I also knew that I could kind of control the energy in terms of like where people were going and how they were feeling and watching where they're at and kind of adjusting to that. But then also getting paid, which is, obviously a great huge thing when you're young and you get your first, bit of money in your pocket from playing records that you love for people. It makes you want to do that over and over and over again. Sure. And that was the beginning kind of process of me figuring out that I wanted to be a DJ.
So when you're somewhere and you're being a DJ, I'm assuming you go in with a set already figured out what you're going to do. But I would think sometimes you have to be in a situation where the room changes, like there's a different vibe. So can you just change, like you have something planned out, but you see it's not really going to work, so you just switch to something else?
Absolutely. So DJs always, without question, have to know how to be able to read a room. It's like mandatory for what you do. You're looking to see, one, the energy of the music that you're playing, the BPM, the feel of it. But you're also looking to see who's in the room and what's happening at the time, right? You're not going to play your biggest record at 10 o'clock at night when the club just opened and there's like
Right.
5 people there, right?
Right.
Even if like, the most prettiest girl comes up to you and bats her eyes and says, hey, can you play my song? And it's the biggest song of the night. It's like, I can't play that right now. I'll play a little bit later when everybody's here and you're going to have fun because there's a gang of people here who will have the same fun that you will. It's a community thing, right?
Right.
So, you have to understand how to be able to read a room and also know that like if you're going one direction and maybe you're going a little bit too far, then it's time to kind of switch up into something else, right? Take people on a journey. So that way it's not just like kind of one monotonous kind of run, but you're kind of having these peaks and valleys, ebbs and flows, which gives people, again, a sense of a journey that they started off here, but they went somewhere else they weren't expecting to. And then by the time they finish, they've had this kind of full 360 experience of all different types of music, all different types of genres, tempos, energy, so on and so forth. Yeah.
So is it basically they're living a story that you are doing through music? Is it with the ups and downs, and you're taking them on a journey, basically?
Yeah, you could say that. I mean, because there are sometimes I say that DJs at points in times can be a very cheap therapist for people, in the sense that people use music to be able to express themselves and also to work through things as well, right? And if you're putting that into an environment where they can have fun and do that at the same time, then they can kind of let out a lot of emotions that they might not know that they've kind of had, kind of pent inside.
Right.
So, in that sense, you can literally take people through these kind of like waves of stuff, like you start listening to certain songs and it's like, oh my God, this song is like the most incredible song. It puts a smile on my face. And then this next song, because it's so beautiful, it actually might make me cry, but it's like maybe in a joyful way, or maybe I need to like just really sweat it out. And this one song is super hard and allows you just to dance really, 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 just tough and get that emotion out, right? So, again, DJs have the ability to kind of like read that energy and take people on journeys. And it's a pretty amazing thing that you can, influence and touch people in such an amazing way through this craft, through music, through DJing.
So did you have to learn how to read the room, or is that something that's just innate, or was it through trial and error that you were able to figure out how to do that?
Absolutely. It's definitely trial and error. I can't tell you one DJ who just automatically just gets it off top. Every DJ's had a fail, guaranteed, including myself, right? And you pick up those lessons and you learn from them, and then the next time you know how to like kind of navigate in the right way. There are times where I've been hired to do certain gigs and say, okay, we want to kind of go this direction and do this type of thing. When you get there and you realize that the thing that they want is not necessarily the thing that everybody wants, right? And so then you have to kind of know how to be able to appease the person who's hired you, but also make sure that the people who are there for the event have the best time that they can, because if you just kind of stay in one direction, it doesn't work. Everybody has a bad time, and then it looks kind of bad on you as the DJ because you didn't do your job, right? You're told to do one thing, and then the other thing was what it was really supposed to happen to make everybody have a great time.
Right.
So there are times where there have been some fails, but again, you learn from those things, and then you take that into the next situation, and as you do those more and more and more, you kind of get a sense of like when you see a crowd. Okay, cool. Like I know this crowd is kind of similar to the crowd that I had before at this place or this type of environment. And then from there, you can kind of implement the things that you learned in the past into those present day situations.
If you feel it though, if you're in a situation where it's just not right, and you can feel it, it's not going well, how do you not be afraid? How do you have the courage to be able to like keep trying and go forward and not just throw your hands up and say, this is not working, and just get lost in that part?
It's a tough one. I mean, first off, like, there's the the level of being in front of people and not wanting to embarrass yourself, right? Like that's a pretty big thing. But also too, like there's a level of confidence that you have to be able to do this, right? Along with the level of study as well as tutelage from other DJs who might have a bit more experience than you. And as you take all these pieces together and kind of combine them, especially the courage part and the confidence part, you just push through, you tough it through, and you make it happen. I mean, I know there've been times where I've had some interesting crowds where it's like, oh, okay, maybe this crowd's a little bit older than what I was expecting it to be. And it might take them a few songs to be able to get to the point where they feel comfortable to get up, right? People sometimes can be a little bit shy, right? They don't want to be the first person to be on the dance floor and to, maybe look foolish because people might not like the way they dance or whatever the case may be. But generally in those cases, what I've done is I've found like one or two people in the crowd where I'm like, okay, you know what? I think they like this type of vibe. And if I can get them within 2 or 3 songs to like what they're doing and they get up and start dancing, a few of their friends will also get up and start dancing. And as soon as there's a little bit of a crowd going on, no one wants to be left out of the people that are having fun on the dance floor.
Right.
So they all start kind of slowly trickling in. And the next thing you know, you have something going on. So, the first song, it doesn't work. Okay. Second song doesn't work. Okay. Kind of close, but not there yet. It might take 5 or 6 songs. And then by the time you get to that 6th or 7th song, you got that energy. You've kind of created that safe space for people to say, you know what, this is going to be a fun and great time.
Right.
And now let's all kind of join in and have a lot of fun.
Okay. So what kind of skill sets do you need to be a successful DJ? And I'm thinking, how much do you have to know about the history of music to be able to incorporate what's old and the classics to what's new and current?
Yeah, to be a DJ is to be continually studying music. As I was saying before, my father's records, because I was blessed early to be, in his collection of stuff, I was able to listen to a lot of, kind of classic records, 70s funk, disco, soul stuff, which kind of helped inform me to get into the 80s and all the rest of it. And even now, still to this day, like I'm continually listening to, new records all the time. And I say new records in the sense that I might not know them, even though they might be old. Right. They're still new to me because they're still, something I haven't discovered yet, and kind of got a chance to digest. So yeah, all the time studying, listening. Now because of the great situations, at least in some people's eyes, depending on who you talk to, because of the situations of streaming, right, between different platforms that are out there. We all know what they are. This gives you a chance to kind of dig and find things that you might not have known about, or listen to a playlist that you might not have thought about listening to, and find a new artist or find a new genre that you can then kind of start digging into and exploring, and then finding other artists and all the rest of that. And you kind of keep on adding that to your plate and to your repertoire. You end up having a massive library of not only music that you might have on your computer, but also music that's in your mind. Like, it's really, really crazy how much DJs are a living library of music, right? That at any given point in time, they can like hear a note and they'll know exactly what the song is, like just by one note, right? Or like one horn, or like one kick or snare, or, it's like, oh yeah, that's that record. Oh, that's that record. Okay, cool. Like even a rhythm. Okay, cool. That's that genre. All these different things. Like, we're constantly studying to better ourselves as, again, kind of living libraries of music.
Mm-hmm. So this question usually comes up later, but I wanted to ask you, and we've kind of talked about it. So you've been a DJ for a while. So how do you stay creative and current? Is it because you're always looking for new music? And do you talk to other DJs? How do you keep those creative juices going?
Yeah, a lot of it is practice, right? Like, you always have to be able to practice your craft. That kind of like 10,000 hour rule to you being kind of like a master of what you do.
Yeah.
Like, then you keep on going, another 10,000, another 10,000, another 10,000. You just keep on going and going in terms of the practice. And as you do that, you realize, okay, I've mastered like this particular, set of songs. But what if I now start to incorporate other things in terms of music into these mixes to make them a little bit more diverse and a little bit more exciting, right? On top of that is that you, as a part of the study, is that you're not only studying the music, you're also studying other DJs as well, right? There are like so many I think there's too many to name DJs that I know who like absolutely blow my mind every time that I watch them. And when I watch them, I get inspiration to try something different, not to copy what they do, but because of what they've done, it makes me say, okay, cool, if they can do this and I can do this with the stuff that I have, that might be different. Like they might play like drum and bass or, some crazy like electro trap, whatever the case may be. And that might not be what I play, but the way that they approached it, I can say, okay, if they approach it that way with that genre, then I can do the same thing with like Afro beats, or I can do the same thing with disco, or with kind of more current hip hop, or whatever the case may be. So definitely watching DJs is definitely a big part of kind of figuring out how to like further your craft. But again, down to practice all the time. You have to keep on practicing, just like you would practice playing the guitar or the piano, or playing the trumpet, or whatever the case may be. Same situation with DJing.
So I've talked to some engineers, and we've talked about the fact that you could tell me exactly how you did something, and if I were to do it, it would sound different, even if I knew exactly what the steps were, just because of my experience, what I hear, the sounds I like. So is that the same with DJing?
Yeah, I mean, the way that I might mix two records will sound different than another DJ. Like it's just a matter of how you approach the music based upon who you are as a person, right? Like music is definitely very personal, even though technically it might be a record that has a sound on it that is recorded and is, just that one thing. I might start the record from a different place than you do.
Right.
I might play it at a different BPM than you do. When you bring it in, you might just blend the record in, where I might scratch the record in, right? Like there's all these different things that will make, even though, again, same music, it could even be the same equipment, the way that I approach introducing the music and playing the music might be different. I might not play the song all the way through to the end. I might play it to a certain point to where I know I've gotten the best part of the song, and then move on to another best part of another song to keep that energy moving, while someone might play the whole song way through, and they might lose some of that energy depending upon what the song is, going towards the end. So again, the way that I might play a song might be completely different than the way someone else plays a song. Same music, same equipment. Our approach, because of who we are and how we like to express ourselves, will be two different things.
Okay. So your set list is giant. So hip hop, pop, dance house, R&B, future soul. You bring in elements from Africa, the UK, everywhere. So do you have a favorite type of music?
I mean, that could change every day, right?
It just depends on what kind of mood you're in.
Yeah, like this morning I was driving and I was listening to a gospel hip hop remix project that a producer went and took a bunch of kind of black church gospel songs and then threw hip hop beats over them and turned it into a whole different project, and it's amazing, right? But then tomorrow I might be listening to Amapiano from South Africa, right? Or I might be listening to, some like house music from the UK, or I might be turning on the radio and listening to whatever the newest hip hop song is, right? Like, I don't like to DJ with limitations, right? Because music shouldn't have limitations, right? So for me, it's like, okay, how do you appreciate music overall, and then find a way to take these different like elements and styles and make them all work together, instead of being like, oh, I only play, funk and soul from 1973 to 1979. Anything else after that, like I don't touch it at all. The music's garbage. If I did that, I would have a very limited career and a very limited audience of people that I could, actually play for. But also too, I would kind of miss out on these great things that are happening with music, especially with technology changing, right? Like if you kind of look at the trajectory of music over time, from bands to electronic music coming in with synthesizers and drum machines and different microphone techniques and all the rest of these things, and then obviously now with computer music, with everything happening with DAWs and plugins and virtual instruments and things, it's exciting because you're always hearing something new because the technology is kind of pushing forward in order for these new types of genres and sounds to be able to be expressed.
Do you have a favorite venue?
um,
I'm not sure if I like it when you laugh when I ask you some of these questions.
Why is that? Why is that?
Because I'm not sure why you're laughing.
Well, I laugh because it's hard to say that I have one favorite venue because there's so many places that I've been to.
Okay,
And
so
also,
what are your favorites? Just your top 3.
okay, I'll say the top 3 that I've played at.
Yeah.
I'll say that, and 2 of them are no longer around. One of them was a club in New York City called APT, which is a really kind of influential club that was around in the kind of 2000s time period, 2000 to 2010-ish era-ish or so. A lot of great music and DJs came out of that space. It was a very curated space, so only certain DJs were able to play there and kind of really kind of be tastemakers to really introduce a lot of new music and be really selective in terms of the music that they're playing. That place was very, very special. So that was one of my favorite places that I played, and I used to go to a lot to hear music. Another space that is no longer around in New York City is a place called Output. I used to do a party called I Love Vinyl, where we played all vinyl records across different genres. And we used to do the party there, as well as I opened up for a few people there at Output as well. And that was a really great venue for the time period that it was around as well. Third one, that is a tough one. I'm trying to think of a third one that's in New York City that's like a favorite. Probably be LeBain at the Standard Hotel. I used to do my party Afrokinetic there for about close to 5 years. And that was a really, really special room. It's still around as of now. And a lot of great DJs play there, and the sound system is really great. And it's on top of the Standard Hotel in New York City, so you can see the whole skyline through the windows.
I've been up there.
So you already know what the vibe is there. So I would say probably those are three venues that I played at that I would consider to be some of my favorites. Yeah.
Okay. So you're a producer and engineer also. So do those skills, are you able to use like your DJ skills to help with your engineering producing, or your engineering skills to help? And how do you put them all together and get a better product?
Yeah, for sure. So, in terms of producing, because I listen to a lot of music, then I can incorporate the things that I listen to into the stuff that I'm producing and that I'm making. You understand what works on a dance floor, and then if you can then take what sensibilities from the dance floor, then incorporate that into the music, then it turns into something. So that's definitely something that's a very easy crossover. And I tend to find that most DJs after a while want to end up producing because they get so used to playing other people's music that they get these ideas in their head. It's like, well, if they did that, I could do this.
Right.
Let me see if I can do it. And they want to kind of jump into it. But also kind of other way around, the kind of producing engineering side is that any DJ that cannot present their music in the best audio fidelity and quality, then falls off. It's like, you had a great set, but your sound sucked. Right? Right. So, understanding that when you're playing on mixers and you're playing records, that you're understanding EQing and gains and filtering and all the rest of that stuff. And when you're playing 2 or 3 records on top of each other, how to bit of balance and mix those things clearly, so that way there's not a lot of distortion and that you can't understand what's going on. Those things are super, super important as DJs. I've seen a lot of DJs who are technically great, but their sound sucks. And they just don't get it because they just can't clearly hear what's going on. And so it's really distorted or just sounds really off. So they both feed into each other, and are very important on both sides.
So do you have a formal education in engineering, or is this just stuff that you learned through trial and error?
A lot of it's been through trial and error, a lot of book reading and video watching. And, I have taken some classes, here and there, some classes in Ableton, some classes in Logic, some classes in mixing and mastering. So those have all kind of helped, kind of come together. But a lot of it's been trial and error. Like, I bought this compressor. Okay, cool. Let's see how it works. Do I like it? Okay, I like it, or I don't. Okay, cool. Sell that and buy something else. I bought this keyboard. I like this keyboard, maybe not, but I know that one might be better, so let me sell this one and go buy that one. I've done a lot of cycling of different gear and software over time to, finally get to the point where it's like, okay, you know what, I kind of have the core pieces that I need to, be able to make what I want and express the way, that I'm feeling to get through the music.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So we might go back to DJ stuff, but since I've focused entirely on this so far, but why don't you talk a little bit about just your whole career path and how you ended up as the Artist Relations Manager at Cerrado?
For sure. Luckily, I've been blessed to work in the music industry now for almost 20 years, maybe more actually. I've worked for a bunch of different record labels, and I've worked for some music distribution companies and music marketing companies, and even education organizations that teach DJ and electronic music. And through actually that experience of working in the education space, I was able to meet some of the folks at Cerrado. And through those meetings and kind of like building the relationships, an opportunity opened up for me to join on with the company to do artist relations. Cerrado is a company that's based in New Zealand, in Auckland, New Zealand. It's a very small company. I would say probably no more than about 140 people, maybe 50, 150 people or so.
Pretty small, yeah.
Altogether as a software company, but it is the #1 DJ software in the world. Anytime that you go to a club and you see a DJ with a computer, I would say 95+% of the time, they're probably using Cerrado. And I've been a Cerrado user for a very long time. I, grew up collecting records. I have about 10,000 records in my apartment still in Brooklyn here. But once digital came along, Cerrado was the way to go. And that's kind of made my career more robust because I just have this great technology behind me that allows me to be able to play and do my thing. So because a lot of the experience that I had, both from DJing, from working on music, and also working in the industry, it allowed me to be able to come into this position here, Cerrado, doing artist relations, and really help the company, myself and our team, to really help the company grow pretty immensely. So it's been a great experience so far, and one that I definitely cherish very much.
Did you ever, in your wildest dreams as a kid, think that this was going to be what you did?
No, not at all. Not at all. I thought when I was a kid, like young kid, I thought I was going to be a doctor, an obstetrician to be exact, which is crazy to think because they're two different things altogether. It was only when I was in college that I kind of started thinking, okay, maybe I could figure this out as like a career path.
Right.
And so I kind of did everything in college to figure out music as much as possible, DJing on the radio station, DJing clubs, putting together events and parties, and putting together and organizing big conferences that were sorted around music, kind of just diving myself into it as much as possible. And then traveling around the world afterwards, spending time in South Africa, working for radio stations, or for a radio station there, and DJing a lot of clubs and events and so on and so forth. So, after a while I said, okay, well, maybe this is a way that I could, do this. Let me try to jump into this. And to be honest, there have been a lot of ups and downs, like, as the industry is constantly changing. Right. So, what might be popular at one moment then turns into something else, or what might be the technology of that moment might change and become obsolete. If you think about CDs, for example, I worked for a distribution company where my main job was as a product manager to be able to distribute record label projects to different stores all around the country and around the world. And a lot of those were, vinyl records and CDs. And as CDs went down, as, streaming started coming up, then that turned the way that the industry was able to work, which then changed the way that I was able to do my job or could not do my job.
Right.
So, there have definitely been a lot of ups and downs in it. But for me, because music is so much a part of my life and it's something that I can't see myself not doing. I've, gone through those tough periods and not given up. I could have easily went and taken a job at anywhere, doing anything. Let me just go be a teacher and I'll just go teach math, or, let me go, just do sales or something. But that really wasn't my passion.
So it's just something inside of you that just has driven you and kept you going even when there's been adversity?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, again, there are times I could have given up. Like, unfortunately, a number of companies that I used to work for are no longer in business. Some record labels, distribution companies, even education places, they're no longer there. And, when that job ends and there's no paycheck, you start to kind of get a little nervous. Like,
Right.
okay, what's the next step? What do I do? So on and so forth. And, luckily, because I've stayed so strong in my faith, not only in myself, but in music, opportunities have opened themselves up. And to be honest, also that DJing has always been kind of like that fallback. So when a job didn't work out, I still have my DJing. I can still be out and play and make money and, support myself. And the knowledge that I have from DJing would then feed into the next job that I would be able to get, right? So it's all kind of worked together, pretty cohesively. I pray that I'm able to stay in this space for as long as possible, because again, music is my passion, and I know that what I bring to it allows other people to have as much fun as I do in music.
So first, I want to thank Tony Baraz for
My
connecting
man,
us.
Tony.
I
I
love
love
Tony.
Tony. That is my man, my brother. Tony, I love you.
Yeah, he's the best. So he said you are the person, you're the go-to for all the DJs who have problems, that you're like 24/7. So I talk a lot about in the podcast about balanced life. So what do you do outside of work and listening to music to try to have some kind of balance in the other aspects of your life?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because even here during this interview, I've had at least 2, 3 phone calls already from people
So
calling
anybody
for
we
help.
should know about that you're putting off?
No one of a serious note, but at the same time, they are important people, and I
Right,
will help
sure.
them out when we're
Yeah.
off of this podcast here, the recording. But yeah, no, look, I mean, I try to spend as much time, friends, family, outdoor activities, bike riding, things of that nature, just life, just to have fun. I love
Right.
food. I love food. So, being able to cook is a nice little kind of stress relief away from all the music, where I could just shut everything off and just like kind of focusing on food and be able to present something nice to people that they can enjoy and eat. But, at the same time though, like music is always on in the background. If I'm riding my bike, I have music somewhere in headphones or something. If I'm cooking, I have music on in the background. If I'm even doing work, which a lot of the work that I'm doing is actually very kind of just menial emails and so on and so forth, there's music on in the background happening, right? Like music kind of drives me to continue to do all the things that I want to do, both work-wise and then also, kind of life, have fun, pleasurable things. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I'm really big on community. I love the pro audio community. Um, it sounds like you're involved in lots of communities. The DJ community, pro audio, you have all these different areas. So I want to know, what does community mean to you?
It means everything. I wouldn't be here now if there weren't a community of people that I was connected to that not only cared about me, but also understood how I care about music. Yeah, plain and simple. Not every job, but a lot of the jobs that I've had in the industry were because of somebody that I knew, that I became friends with, that we had a bond. And they said, oh, you know what? There might be an opportunity for you here. We know that you are into this or you're passionate about this. Here goes a door that you might be able to knock on that might get you in and do something. And in that next place, you meet somebody else. You build community with them. And then that same thing happens going forward. And then vice versa, that I'm able to then turn around and give those opportunities to other people as well. Like I'm really, really, really big on that. I always tell people that there is no need to hog information. right? Like, all this stuff about equipment and connection and computers and all this stuff. There's no reason for me to hog the information. What I do with it and what you do with it might be two different things completely, right? It's really upon how you approach it, right? Which not only helps you grow, but it also helps me and everybody else grow, because if you do something innovative, then it's like, oh wait, they did that with this. Okay, now that's the next step of where we need to go to be able to kind of push everything forward, right? So with that being said, there is no information that's held back. If I can help somebody out in their process to being great, that eventually will make me great as well, which then I can give that back to someone as well.
Right. So it's like that community brain, right? So why not bring everybody up with you? Because then there's just more to learn from all these different people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, just kind of going back to Tony, just shout him out again. Like, Tony's introduced me to so many people because he knows everybody.
He does. He does.
Like, I can't walk down a hallway at NAMM without literally being stopped with Tony like every 2 seconds because someone else knows him and there's a story, and he's always like, hey, you got to be my man OP from Cerrado, and so on and so forth. And the next thing you know, I build a relationship with that person, and then I can help them out with something. And then, so it's that kind of back and forth a lot. So, community is definitely very, very important. We wouldn't be here talking right now if it wasn't for the community of people that we're surrounded with, who all have the same passion for music. So, yeah.
So if someone's listening, some kid, and he wants to be, or she wants to be you, what tips, what insight do you have? What should they be doing to be able to succeed as you have?
Study a lot. Whatever the thing is that you are passionate about, you put those hours in to study it, that you know it inside and out. And even when you think you know it inside and out, something new will come about, and you need to study that as well and keep on that process as much as possible. Ask as many questions. I always say, no question is a dumb question, but you also know when to ask the right question, right?
Right.
So, ask as much as possible, because if you don't ask, then you just won't know. And that question also might spark different ideas that you weren't thinking about, or even the person that you were asking the question to, they might not have thought about, which then creates a different type of dialogue to be able to learn from. So asking a lot of questions, practice, again, put as many hours as you can in on your craft or whatever it is, just learning it inside and out and knowing it to the back of your hand at, some point in time. And building relationships, which is huge. Again, that community aspect, right? Like being able to know that you are not only building them for yourself, but you're building them for also other people that will then eventually be benefit to you as you circle around, right? Like I've, learned, I've met, I've given. Because of me giving, it's come back to me again, maybe something even greater than I was expecting. Now I can give that back out to somebody else, right? So, putting that type of time in is super important.
So you're from Brooklyn, you live in Brooklyn now. Has that really influenced what you're doing, the types of music that you're listening to, your career, any of that?
Yeah, I mean, New York has always been central for me, life and in music. But I've lived in other places as well. I've lived in Ohio, I've lived in Colorado, I lived in New Jersey. I spent time in Philly. I lived in South Africa, which was a big, big kind of moment in terms of changing my musical direction and being more open. So New York is always kind of central to music for me and life, but I have other experiences that allow me to think outside of the 5 boroughs of New York, right? Living in the Midwest is definitely a different experience than living in New York City. But because I have had that experience, I understand different cultural norms and also musical norms, because I've been in a different place and I've had to, kind of switch the way that I think to understand, oh, wait, there actually is something cool in the way that people listen to and or dance to and or present, this type of thing, right? So being global is super important, especially now when you think about, the way that the world is, because we're so connected, through the internet and, devices and so on and so forth, you can't just be stuck in the place that you are and think that that's the whole world. Like, you'll lose.
Right. Yeah.
You have to be, more open and global to be able to not only survive, but also to be able to relate to people as well on,
Yeah.
on a very human level. So,
And it
New York.
broadens your perspective on
Oh,
on
absolutely,
life.
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Again, my time in South Africa literally changed my life. There are aspects and things about living in Johannesburg that like I never would have thought about before, and then having that experience, it opened me up to think about that in other places, and the way that
Right.
people are able to live, and the reason why certain things sound the way that they do because of environments and history and
Sure. Yeah.
background and all the rest of that, right? Yeah, it's super important to be as open-minded as possible on a human level, but also on a musical level too.
Yeah. I've traveled internationally, but when the in-person event business is actually happening, I travel a ton in the US, and it's mostly both coasts, but I meet a lot of people from everything in the middle when I'm traveling. And it really, I'm so excited and I was so happy that having this job has given me the opportunity to meet people I would never, ever, ever meet. And they talk to me about their jobs. A lot of the people are salespeople and they're traveling, so the hotel. So the kind of jobs they do, what they do for fun, all that. And it's just really just broadened my perspective on life just in the US and what people are doing and what they're going through and stuff. I'm a native Californian. I've always
Mm,
lived in California. So if I had just stayed here, I would be much narrower in my focus, I think.
right.
So being able to travel at all, I think, is just the best thing for you as a person or me as a person, and just in general, just like you're saying, the global view. And it all does tie in, especially now with the internet. It's just so quick that everything is just kind of meshed together.
Oh yeah, no, totally. I mean, and because the internet, especially during kind of lockdown COVID times, when all the DJs started to get online and play,
Hmm.
it was actually really interesting because normally it's like, oh, you play in your neighborhood or your city, you might travel to a couple of different places to play because you might know a few people in those places, but you don't
Right.
really get a chance to like kind of branch out because you can't be everywhere all the time.
Right.
But then you get on Twitch or other platforms to be able to DJ, and next thing you know, you have people looking at you and watching you and communicating with you and building community with you from all around the world, right?
Yeah.
And that then
It's
changes the
so
way that
cool.
you're. Oh, it's amazing. Like I've
Yeah.
made friends in places that I was not expecting to make friends with. It's like, oh,
Sure.
I watch your stream. It's amazing. I love the way that you play. Like, I've never heard the song before, but I love what you do. Or your visuals are amazing. Like you took time to like really, put your green screen together to make it look really,
Yeah.
amazing and all the rest of that, right? So again, kind of back to that global thing, right? Like you end up creating this community of people through music that now spans the globe instead of just spanning your neighborhood,
Right. Yeah.
which opens up so many more possibilities. I know some friends of mine who are on Twitch who, again, they played in the neighborhood and now they play for the world. And
Yeah. It's so
it's,
cool.
they
It's
have,
so cool.
500 people watching them every day on Twitch, you know, uh, and they're from Germany and from South Africa and from Japan and from New Zealand and from Hawaii and from all these different points and places, Brazil and all these different points and places around the world. It's amazing.
Yeah. Um, I want to go back to Cerrado just for a second. I was
Yeah,
scoping you out on Instagram, and I saw the post from the Underground Music Academy,
that's right.
and I know that Cerrado's supporting them. And I was just really taken with the whole mission of the Underground Music Academy. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. So the Underground Music Academy is a school that's being started up by a producer named Wajid, who's from Detroit. He's a very influential DJ, producer, photographer, artist. He does 20 million different things. He's an amazing guy. But he growing up in Detroit amongst a lot of kind of like the legends of both dance music, techno, and house, but also hip hop. He was best friends and collaborators with a guy named Jay Dilla, who was one of the biggest and best ever producers to work in hip hop. And for me, music in general. Unfortunately, he's passed away, but his legend still kind of lives on. YG was kind of right-hand man with him. So YG, knowing the importance of not only music from Detroit, from Motown to techno to hip hop and points in between, knowing the legacy of things that are happening in Detroit, but also, again, kind of thinking globally, knowing that the sound of Detroit has kind of touched the world. He's creating a space in Detroit for not only Detroit natives from the community to come and learn how to make music, but also for people around the world to do the same thing. Really, really focused on making sure that it's about music, it's about community, it's about empowerment and upliftment of people, especially marginalized folks who might not have access to learn about how to be able to make music. He's trying to provide that opportunity. So Cerrado is joining in with them for a Black History Month campaign to support the development of the school. Yeah, it's a really amazing thing that they're doing, and I'm glad that we're, as a company, that Cerrado's a part of helping them to develop.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I was really fascinated. It's a wonderful idea, and it's great that Cerrado was helping. Okay, last question.
Yeah.
Okay, this is my favorite one.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna come see you in Brooklyn.
Yes, you are, and I'm going to show you how to
Okay.
DJ. You're going to come right here, then get on these
Yeah,
turntables and learn how to
yeah,
DJ.
yeah. It's not gonna happen. I will
Yes, it's
watch
going to
you.
happen. You're going to
Okay.
do this, and then do this, and then do this, and then it's going to happen.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that
We're going to
offline.
put it on
Okay.
camera and then put it back on the podcast.
Okay. So we're gonna go have dinner. So where are we gonna
Yes.
go? What
Okay.
are we gonna drink? What are we gonna eat? What music are we listening to? And what are we gonna talk about?
Oh, wow. What type of cuisine do you like?
No, 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 no.
Oh, you want me to
That's
kind of put this
yeah.
together?
You're in charge of this. I don't like
Okay.
to make decisions if I'm not working.
Okay. So because you're special, I'm going to take you somewhere nice, and we'll have like a really slightly expensive meal. We're going to go to a Chinese restaurant in Chinatown called Chinese Tuxedo.
Okay.
They have the ambiance of the place is absolutely beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's amazing. The music is generally really, really curated and just kind of like tasteful. Always a good energy and vibe that's there. Food-wise, there everything is served kind of like almost tapas style, but all Chinese cuisine. But it's like extremely decadent in terms of the flavors.
Ooh,
Yes.
I like that.
Yeah. So, everything just like it melts in your mouth. It's absolutely amazing. So we will eat and drink there.
What are we
trying to
drinking?
think. What are we drinking? So I don't drink alcohol.
Okay.
So
That's fine.
I will have some type of mixture of probably like cucumber and pineapple and something concoction.
That
thing.
sounds good.
Yeah, a little something, and then I'm trying to remember what.
What are we going to talk about?
Oh, we're gonna talk about life. I'm gonna learn about you in California because California is one of the places that I've visited, but I've never spent a mass amount of time in. So I really want to learn about California from your perspective. We're definitely gonna talk about. We're definitely gonna talk about the industry and NAMM in particular because I'm such a huge fan of the NAMM conference and then all the things, especially with the tech awards added on. Like I was telling you before when we talked earlier, I have been stalking, all the internet sites every year when NAMM pops up, and it's like, okay, what's the new piece of gear that came out? And who's putting it out? And who's testing it? And who showed up? Who's a celebrity? Did Stevie Wonder show up this year? Stevie Wonder showed up this year. Okay, what keyboard is he playing with? All that. So we're going to talk about that as well, and we'll talk about things that inspire us to keep on doing what we're doing and moving forward.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
So we got to open everything up so I can
Yeah.
travel again.
And then afterwards, we're going to come to Brooklyn and come to the studio here, and then I'm going to show you how to DJ here.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. This has been really a lot of fun. So I appreciate you doing this with me.
Yeah, thank you. I've had a great time. Hopefully people enjoy it. For DJs that are out there, you should already know about Cerrado, but if you don't, make sure you go to Cerrado.com and check out everything Cerrado there, both in terms of DJ with Cerrado DJ Pro, but also on the music production side with Cerrado Studio and Cerrado Sample. You can find me online on Instagram at OPMiller1. It's been a great time being with you.